Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. It's July 3rd, 2016. It's the 45th anniversary of the death of Jim Morrison, the lead singer of The Doors. In this video, I'm going to show what is very suspicious about his death in Paris, as well as his girlfriend's death shortly after. I'm also going to talk about what his death has to do with the Miami incident where he went on stage drunk, showing up late to his own concert, and then stumbling in the song 5 to 1 and breaking into this rant, which we're going to play. This rant seems to be directly connected to his Paris death. Let's listen to what Jim Morrison said the night of March 1st, 1969.
You're all a bunch of fucking idiots! Letting people tell you what you're gonna do! Letting people push you around! How long do you think it's gonna last? How long are you gonna let it go on? How long are you gonna let them push you around? How long? Maybe you like it. Maybe you like being pushed around. Maybe you love it. Maybe you love getting your face stuck in the shit. Come on. You love it, don't you? You love it. You're all a bunch of slaves. Letting everybody push you around. What are you gonna do about it? 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 What are you gonna do?
So, did you hear what he had to say? He was telling the people in his audience they're all a bunch of idiots, they're all a bunch of slaves, they all just get pushed around and they don't do anything about it. Then he asks repeatedly, what are you going to do about it? And you know, Truth Seeker, before we get into this video, this is why I do this work. Because we do need to do something about it. This has been going on way too long. That rant was from 1969, and we're living in the same type of world today, where we're bullied from birth to death to be slaves to a banking system. We are all debt slaves, and that's why from birth we are raised to be consumers and educated just enough to participate in this consumer culture, which is based on banking and debt and interest and consumption. That's what Jim Morrison was speaking to that night. Something interesting about the word slave, we're going to talk about gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words. The word slave equals 59. 59. And most of us in this nation, we work the 9 to 5, that number in reverse. If you're new to my channel, I show about the significance of 59 in the Civil War and slavery and so much more. But not to be tangential, let's apply this knowledge and look at the death of Jim Morrison as well as his girlfriend. Jim Morrison passed July 3rd, just before the United States' birthday, the nation he was born in, but he died in Paris, France, the longtime ally of the U.S. So, right away, what stands out about Jim Morrison dying in Paris is that Jim Morrison and Paris in gematria are a match. They both sum to 63. Jim Morrison was born James Douglas Morrison, a very special number, or a very special name in gematria, yielding the numbers 86 and 113. Words such as symbol, pyramid, triangle have gematria of 86 like his name. Jim Morrison, very much a symbol, a rock star, a sex symbol, a cultural icon. With regards to 113, that is a number of Freemasonry, a signature of the Scottish Rite Freemasons, and Jim Morrison born into a powerful military family. Most of the military men in this nation are Freemasons. I suspect the same was true of his father. Born into a very powerful family, Jim Morrison, which we'll talk more about. But anyhow, very interesting name in Gematria. Jim Morrison, dead in Paris, a match. In simple English Gematria, Jim Morrison sums to 153. We'll talk about why that's interesting. There's a relationship between 153 and 113. If you write out 153, it sums to 113 in Gematria. In the Bible, there's the miraculous catch of 153 fish. Fish in Jewish Gematria sums to 113. A miraculous catch of 153 fish. These are special numbers to the Freemasons. Very interesting that they're coded into Jim Morrison's name. So Jim Morrison, born December 8th, 1943. That's a date with 82 numerology. His death is mainly a mystery, but it's commonly said that he overdosed on heroin. That he wasn't a heroin user. He became very sick from using this heroin. It killed him. Interesting that his birth numerology corresponds with the gematria of heroin overdose, which sums to 82. Also, he had a life lesson number of 37. He died on July 3rd, which can be written 3/7. Also dead on a date with 28 numerology, the reflection of 82. Born on a date with 28 numerology and dead on a date with 28 numerology, the reflection of 82. He was also born on a date with 63 numerology, just like Jim Morrison, just like Paris, where he passed from heroin. The word sacrifice sums to 73 in Gematria. He was dead on July 3rd. In the U.S., we'd write that date 7/3. Where he passed at, the location, it has identical gematria to Bavarian Illuminati. And the Bavarian Illuminati in history was started on May 1st, 5/1. When he gave his rant, it was the song 521. We'll talk more about the number 51. But it was May 1st that the Bavarian Illuminati was started on a very specific date. Bavarian Illuminati has gematria of 188, just like where Jim Morrison died. The Bavarian Illuminati is credited with the French Revolution, which began right after the American Revolution. The Bavarian Illuminati was started May 1st, 1776, just months before the American Revolution. They're not credited with the American Revolution, but look at the ties. Thomas Jefferson in France, a lot of these people between France and the United States. France, United States, similar flags, similar colors. Also, with regards to the Illuminati, which they're just commonly called, the Illuminati sums to 153, like Jim Morrison. Also, like the cemetery he's buried in. Jim Morrison buried in a cemetery that matches his name, also like the Illuminati. The Illuminati, what it is, are the Freemasons, the Zionists, the Jesuits, the people in high places that belong to these secret societies that practice this esoteric knowledge, such as gematria. What I am showing is what they code by. Jim Morrison, he died at age 27, becoming a member of the 27 Club. He died 207 days after his birthday. And in numerology, 0 in the middle of a number doesn't count. 207 is a lot like 27. Dead at age 27, 207 days after his 27th birthday. France is home of the plus 33 international dialing code. Rockstar has gematria of 33. A number of sacrifice, a number of Freemason obsession. He died in 71. Doors in gematria sums to 71, the band he's known for, the Doors. He was buried on July 7th, 7/7. It is the Zionist Jews who control the recording industry, who run Freemasonry, who are at the top of the pyramid in the Illuminati. Judaism 77. Stars. Think about all the dead stars and how after they're dead, as entertainers, their deaths are used to sell more more music, more movies, more books. There's a reason this is done. So he was born to his father, George Stephen Morrison, who was a Navy admiral that was responsible for reporting what happened in the Gulf of Tonkin incident that started the Vietnam War. Robert McNamara, who was the Secretary of Defense, as an old man, admitted that the Gulf of Tonkin was a hoax, a false flag meant to be a political narrative to start a war, meaning Jim Morrison's father was part of the real conspiracy in this nation for war and banking. And think about it, his son, this rock star, also benefiting from this system, and at the same time speaking out against what his father's a part of. You know, you can look at that how you want to. Is he a young person in a position rebelling, or is he playing the part of controlled opposition? You know, I don't have all the answers. I was born in 1983, 12 years after Jim Morrison was dead. I'm still trying to figure it out, but what I have figured out is how these celebrities have been killed by the numbers again and again. Check out the 1983 song by the Police, Murder by Numbers. It's very much like what I'm sharing here. Anyhow, the father's name in Pythagorean gematria sums to the same thing as the last name, 121. What 121 is the number for Revelation, the book of prophecy. If you read Revelation, the final book of the Bible, it's littered with the numbers 7 and 4 again and again. These are numbers important to the Freemasons. The Freemasons in this world, what they have done is they have scripted history by the numbers according to prophecy. In Revelation, the city of Philadelphia is named. Philadelphia is the original capital of the United States of America. We're going to talk more about Revelation in regards to the death of Jim Morrison and his girlfriend in a moment. But realize that his father had these numbers on him. Jim Morrison had these numbers on him. We'll talk about how they connect to the girlfriend too. So the Miami incident where we began with the rant, that was March 1st, 1969, a date with 73 numerology. He ended up dying July 3rd, like sacrifice. And that date, March 1st, is most commonly written 1/3, a lot like 13. The Bavarian Illuminati began with 13 families. The date they were established was a date with numerology connecting to 13. 13, a very important number to this nation, the United States, as well as France. The USA began with 13 colonies. USA in gematria sums to 41, which is the 13th prime number. In France, their Freemasonry history goes back to Friday the 13th, where the Knights Templar were burned at the stake. The original superstition of Friday the 13th begins in France. So special numbers to Freemasonry, the Illuminati, and riddled possibly also into the death of Jim Morrison. Very seemingly so, which we're still getting to. The Miami incident in gematria, which is what it's called, where Jim Morrison went on the rant calling everyone idiots and slaves. Special numbers, 156 is a number that connects to 33. 911 is also the 156th prime. 33 is the number of Freemason obsession. The numbers that connect to 33 also gain significance. Again, rock star also equals 33. The Miami incident also has the same gematria as United States of America. If you've never read the book 1984, it's about a futuristic nation where the people are enslaved, they are ruled over by screens, and their nation is always at war, but the people don't know why. It's a book that's very much about a nation like the United States of America. It's called 1984. It was written at the end of World War II. Interesting that Miami has gematria 45. Today's the 45-year anniversary of the death of Jim Morrison. And I think for the first time in the world, this information is being released to the public. You know, this is what's always been hidden from us, this code. This is something I began to understand at the end of 2013. I understand it better and better each day. And the more information that comes across my path, the more I try to show what really happened, such as the death of Jim Morrison, which has always been a mystery to most. So check this out. From March 1st, 1969, the night of the Miami incident, to the day he died was a span of 122 weeks. And this is a very special number to the Freemasons and the Zionist Jews. The word for God in Judaism is Elohim, having gematria of 122. These people are playing God over humanity. Freemason sums to 122 in the Francis Bacon method. The date his girlfriend would die would be a date with 122 numerology. She would pass April 25th, 1974. This is the woman who found Jim Morrison dead in the bathtub. And I want to show you what's so significant about bathtub. But first, let me explain what's significant about her name. Her name, Pamela Susan Courson, has gematria of 227, which is the 49th prime number. The numbers of revelation are 49 and 121. So her name also connects into this revelation coding. Also, what's special about 227 is how it connects to cycles and circles. To get to the number pi, you know that you learned about in geometry, 2 pi r squared, you divide 22 by 7. 22 divided by 7 gives you the number pi. And what's interesting is if you write out 22 divided by 7 in words, in gematria it sums to 314. Pi is 3.14. You know, they call March 14th Pi Day. In gematria, it codes out perfectly like pi. It's because all of this coding is based around the way this world operates, and cycles and circles have a lot to do with it. This number is coded all throughout history in major significant events. It's very interesting that it is coded into the name of the girlfriend. Honestly, what it makes me think is that, she is an agent that played into this riddle. That's what it makes me think. It's just so much alignment. It's hard for me to explain it any other way. But anyhow, she ended up dead by the same numbers as Jim Morrison. And the question becomes, are either of these people really dead, or is this how they escaped their celebrity? That interview was given in the 80s by his friend that made the comment, it's not like they faked their death and went off to live happily ever after in Africa, living off their royalties. And when he says that, it almost makes me think, is that what these people are doing? Are they going to some nice place in a part of the world where many people aren't at and living out, a fantasy, living off their royalties? I think if that's a possibility, and it should be in most of our minds, why does that sound impossible? I think if that was an option to people and if that was really going on, I think a lot of people might take that road. We heard Jim Morrison screaming out at his fans, maybe the lifestyle of being out on the road, going show after show, singing the same songs every night. How long does everyone want to do that for? Maybe everyone doesn't want to participate so long. So I just bring up that possibility. I'm not saying that's what's going on, but I'm saying it's entirely possible. So anyway, he died in a bathtub, and bathtub has gematria of 74. His girlfriend found him dead in the bathtub, supposedly an overdose from heroin. Bathtub has gematria of 74, like Masonic, like Jewish. Remember Whitney Houston and her daughter in the bathtub, drug overdoses. A lot more to those stories than what I just said. I have videos on Whitney Houston and her daughter. Check it out. Very suspicious. A lot of things syncing up by the numbers. So anyway, this would become the big news the next day, July 4th, Independence Day. Independence Day 74, just like holiday. Why? Because the Freemasons have owned and operated this nation by the numbers since the beginning. Jim Morrison dead 122 weeks after making the remarks. His girlfriend dead shortly after him on a date with 122 numerology. She would die at age 27, just like Jim Morrison. She was also she died in the year 74, connecting with this whole bathtub thing. The date she was born in history was December 22nd, 1946, a date with 27 numerology, and dead at age 27 like Jim. From Jim's death to her death, was a span of 9 months and 23 days. And in France, they have something called the French Republican calendar or the French Revolution calendar from the time of the French Revolutionary War. That calendar begins on September 23rd in most years, and that span of 9 months and 23 days makes me think of September 23rd and the French Republican calendar in light of Jim Morrison dying in France. So, from the date Jim Morrison died to the date of September 23rd, which is the new year for the French Republican calendar, was 82 days, just like heroin overdose, which Jim Morrison and his girlfriend Pamela both supposedly died from. We talked about how Jim had the 82 birth numerology too. It's amazing to think that these people have always synced things up this way, but it really appears that they have. This is a Masonic obsession, this is a ritual, and this is largely how it's done. Jim was supposedly born in Melbourne, Florida. Melbourne, Florida has the gematria of 51, just like conspiracy. The Bavarian Illuminati established May 1st. The man who established it, Adam Weishaupt, I can't think how to say his last name, but his name in gematria I know sums to 51, the man credited with starting the Bavarian Illuminati on May 1st. It is really interesting that Jim Morrison had that rant during the song 5 to 1 in light of how everything ended up lining up by the numbers. You know? Is this all part of a narrative for how to escape one's death? The thing to think about with Jim Morrison is after he passed, a lot of stereotypes were made about him, being a drug user, speaking out against his country. These are things that have been used as stereotypes now against other people again and again. So, I'll let you be the judge of what really happened to Jim Morrison, but based on my research, what I can conclude is that it's all part of a ritual. It's either ritual murder or a ritual way to disappear. And I wish I had the rest of the answers, but I don't, Truth Seeker. All right, until next time.